fiber friends. Welcome to another episode of the Knit, Knot, and Weave podcast. My name is Dorothy, and I am coming to you from Columbia, Maryland. This is my little corner of the YouTube where I journal my fibery adventures. Usually that's knitting, crocheting, weaving, yarn dyeing, and spinning. So, if that sounds like something that is of interest to you, go ahead and grab yourself a cup of something. Today I have tea because for those of you that have been here before, you could probably hear I have a little frog in my throat. And I am drinking Harney and Sons Venetian tiramisu with a little bit of local honey to help me also with my allergies. So go ahead and grab your knitting and your crocheting and let's get started. So welcome, friends. It has been a while, but school has started back up and I am starting to get back into my regular groove. And so hopefully I will be back to a regular schedule of podcasting. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and spending some time with me. And if you are a new viewer, I so appreciate you checking me out and welcome to the crazy. So today I have about 4 finished objects to share with you. And I say about 4 because some have multiples because they just are like so potato-y chip. And all 4 objects just happen to be crochet. I have 3 whips to share with you that I have made progress on. I can speak today. And I have one other to share that I haven't made progress on, but I kind of sort of have. And I'll explain that when we get to it. I will have some acquisitions to share and life updates and all the fun stuff that happens when you're here. So first up, let me share what I am wearing, which is also one of my finished objects. It is the Hexi Cardigan. It is done in Lion Brand's Mandala yarn in the Genie colorway. I will insert a little video here of me modeling it for you since I'm not going to get up and have to move the camera around. I do have my notes so that hopefully I will stay on task. So the pattern that I initially followed for this is called the Art Class Cardi by Fiber Flux, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I believe it's also free on her website. So I used 3 skeins of Lion Brand Mandala in the Genie colorway. I did do some color, not color matching, but color monitoring, I guess you could say, so that both halves started with the same colorway in the center, and I worked my way out. And when I had to start a new skein, I would start it with whatever color I had left off at. You can see in the video that I have inserted here that along the back center, I crocheted 3 separate granny squares to put in the center so that my back would match up nicely. The reason I did that is I could have continued to make the hexagon larger until the back met, but that would give me a little too much overlap in the front, and it would have made my arms much longer than they are. And I really didn't want my sleeves much longer. I kind of really like this 3/4 length. It's the perfect, it's the perfect size for work because I won't have to push it up to get it out of the way when I'm doing work at my desk. Unfortunately, right now it's the beginning of the school year, so I am doing a lot of work at my desk, researching new materials that have been published to purchase for the kids to enjoy, looking up resources and things like that. So I'm very happy with how it has turned out. I did do an additional single crochet all the way around. Let me see, I did approximately 6 rows all the way around and across the bottom. So I literally, once I put it all together, I just went all the way around, and I love it. And the best part about it is that I can throw it in the washing machine when I need to clean it. So this will probably be living in my office at work for days when it's just a little chilly out. Or I should say, I can speak. I should say a little chilly in my office, because we never know what the temperature will be indoors. Yes, we do have AC and heat, but in our building, it really is a crapshoot. I mean, I have had almost 99-degree temperatures in my office in the dead of winter, and 65, 60 in summer. So who knows? But I think this is perfect. It will be living in my office. It will probably come home with me a couple of times to get washed and go right back. I do plan on making another one to stay at home with me. I really enjoyed this. It was a very quick crochet pattern, and I really enjoyed making it. This was done, I used a 5mm crochet hook, which was perfect for the mandala yarn. So if any of you want to make it, that's what I did. So next up, I have finally finished my Scrappy Granny Tee. Super happy with this. I will also insert a video here showing it on me. And let's see. Where is the Scrappy Granny Tee? Is by Emily Marie Davis. The yarn I used is Stitch Studio by Nicole. So it is a cotton yarn. It is a fingering weight cotton yarn. I used a 4.25mm hook, which in American sizes is a G hook. It is the larger of the two G hooks. I think in US terms, a 4.0 and a 4.25 could be a G hook in America. And this was ripped back many, many times. For those of you that have followed along with the last few episodes know this, but it finally fits. I do want to make another one out of sock yarn, out of wool sock yarn, so that I can wear it in the winter time. I'm still debating on whether or not I want to extend the sleeves just a little to cover up my little batlings, but we won't talk about that here. But otherwise, this was done with one whole skein, so approximately 1,000 yards. And I absolutely love how it came out. I did cast on the wider neckline, so it's perfect to wear over a tank top or even a t-shirt. And yes, so that is done. Very, very pleased with this. What did I say? Okay, yes, I shared what hook I did. So, fun times. Thoroughly enjoyed this one, even though I had to rip back several times. Then my next project, I first saw on, let me see, who was it? Andrea the Cat Lady. The Craft All the Things is her podcast, and she shared these. And then I saw some on Lisa of Fiber Nymph Dye Works. And then recently, Lefty the Knitter, geez, what is wrong with me today? Aquila from Lefty the Lefty Knitter podcast. And so I found the pattern and I made one. And these are called wind spinners. And I thought these were so neat. Whoops. and they're just like potato chips. You can't make just one. So I have one. I used a bunch of cotton yarn that I had in a bag. It was probably yarn that I was going to either bring into for the yarn club at work, or I was going to bring it to the yarn swap that we are having later in the month of September with my knitting group. So in this one, I used 3 different colors. I used the orange on the beginning chain and at the end, and then I used a multicolored and a green. And I used I believe it was a 4.25 millimeter hook. I think it was a G hook. So here's one. The second one I made was slightly thinner yarn, so I made it with a slightly smaller hook. It's whatever hook I had in my office at the time. I made these at work when I was on some Zoom calls and some meetings. Keeps my hands busy and keeps my mind on track for what the speaker is saying. And I wound up making 5 in total. Here's another one. Like I said, these are so much fun to make. Almost as fun as the little curly cues that I put on my hats for the kids sometimes. I haven't completely finished them. I'm debating on whether I want to put a tassel on the bottom or if I'm going to use some beads. I thought these would be fun to hang around the media center, especially by the air vents, so that when air is blowing, these could twist and turn and the kids would have fun with them. I may make some for my front porch, maybe in some Halloween colors for Halloween, although I will not be here for Halloween this year. That is the weekend of our retreat. So in total, I have 5, which I think would give me, right now, I think that would give me 1 per air unit in the media center, so that we could at least keep track of whether the air is on or off from a distance. So that will be fun. And I do plan on making some more. Like I said, I plan to make some Halloween ones for my front porch, maybe a few more for the media center, maybe even try and get the Knit and Crochet Club at school to make a few for the media center. And then my last FO to share with you guys, and excuse me, my throat's getting a little dry. So next up, I have some washcloth scrubbies. Try saying that 5 times fast and not messing up. For those of you that have been following me, you know that I make lots of washcloths. I'm trying to use up all of my cotton stash. I have a lot. Don't ask me why. I have no clue, but I am slowly working my way through it. I make tons of washcloths or dishcloths, and my family absolutely loves them. I usually just make a whole stack, and when we get together at Christmas or Thanksgiving, depending upon which holiday the whole family is actually together, I just bring them out and let them pick and choose whichever ones they want. My older sister, she lives in Colombia with me. Well, not with me in this house, but in Colombia. Asked for some round scrubbies that she could use in when she takes her showers. So I made a few different varieties for her to try. So first up, I have this little scrubby, little face scrubby, and I thought she would appreciate that. It's just it's about maybe a 2-inch, 2.5-inch square. I did follow a pattern for this one. For the life of me, I can't remember the name of the pattern. And of course, I forgot to write it in my notes because all the other ones I did not follow a pattern for. So I will have this linked in the description box below. which reminds me, everything on my project pages will be linked in the description box below. Any shops that I mentioned, I will also link in the description box below. To get to the description box, there will be either like a little down arrow or a more button, see more, see less, something like that, where you will find all that information. So we have the little face scrubby. And then the others, I just sort of made my own pattern up. And when I post these on Ravelry, I will, in the notes box, I will have written out exactly how I made these. But I made this one first. So it's got a double row of these puffs with a single crochet row in the center. And these are all made with 100% dishcloth cotton. Here is another one that I made. This one, I used the same edging that was called for in the Windjammer. Listen to me, I must think I'm on a cruise. Wind spinners, because I really liked how they looked. So I added that to the edging here. And then this one, I did just a couple of double crochets in the back to make a little like finger slip. And I know it seems a little small, but if it was any bigger, it would have gone over my fingers. But if my sister decides she wants it a little bit bigger, I can certainly make that adjustment because each row increases on its own. So, but I thought that would be fun. She'd be able to hold on to it. The next one is approximately the same, except instead of doing the double crochets, I just did a chain in the back for her to pull down on her finger. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cover my mouth. To pull down on her finger, and she'd be able to just hold it and then be able to scrub. And then this one I made with a whole, I don't know what you would call this. I guess some sort of a handle so that you could pull it down on your hand. And it lays nicely across your whole hand. Again, if I make this any bigger, I would probably make this smaller and just made it to the perfect hand size. You just sort of lay it against your hand. I did make them so that they were tight to get on, because if you have never worked with dishcloth cotton, as soon as it gets wet, it stretches. And I actually made one of these for myself, and I used it, and it worked rather well. I think I am going to attempt to make one with a third row of puffies to see if that would work a little bit better. But I did enjoy using it. It was very nice. I was able to sort of keep it right there in my hand as I was scrubbing myself. I didn't keep dropping the washcloth like I normally do. And so there you have it. So now I can call up my sister and see if she's going to be home and drop these all off and wait for her to give me her thoughts. So she will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 little lovely little scrubbies. And then I can get her feedback on those. And that is all I have for finished objects this week. I'm sorry if I'm talking a little faster than normal in this episode. I think I'm trying to get through it because I'm starting to feel it in my throat with whatever's going on in my sinuses. So first whip I have to share with you is inside this project bag from Scrappy Angel. It is gnomes and coffee, and you know what's better than gnomes and coffee with a faux leather bottom. I did purchase handles to put on this. I just have not gotten around to it yet. And so inside here is the Radari. Oops. This will be a Christmas gift for my father. And my father's favorite color is red. So here we are. Here is the Progress Keeper. So I have knit approximately, what is that, maybe 2 inches since I last shared this. It's a tad scratchy in wool. It's 100% wool, Icelandic wool. I am using Let Lopi, and I am using the, of course, these don't have color names on them. They only have numbers. So I am using color number 0051, 0059, which is black, and 1409, which is this Barn colored red. And I have a gray in here. I can't remember if it's part of the, it should be 0056. And again, this is Let Lopi. It's a bit scratchy, but my father never tends to wear sweaters right up against his skin. He is 81, 41, 83. Holy crap. He's 83 this year. So my father's 83 years old. He has lost an incredible amount of weight since he retired. He was never a heavy man in regards to fat weight. He was a very muscular man in his early years. He did welding for the gas and electric company up in New York, and so he was very ruggedly, muscularly built. But since his retirement, he unfortunately has lost a lot of that muscle, and so he tends to be a lot colder than most people do in the wintertime, especially up in New York. So he does tend to wear layers. So I'm not too concerned about the itchiness of the Let Lopi. But if somebody knows of a trick of what to soak this in to make it feel maybe a little bit softer, maybe around the neck, so it doesn't bother him at the neck area, please let me know in the comments, because I do enjoy working with this yarn, and I do like the fact that it feels like there's multiple colors, even though this is like a barn red. In certain areas, you could see speckles of black and little speckles of orange in it. And I think it really makes a nice effect, but this is something I could never, ever wear against my skin. But, so if you know of a way to make this a tad bit softer, please, please let me know in the comments. But I am very close to being at the point where I will need to put this aside and knit up the sleeves. So this is a sweater that is worked from the bottom up. Where did I put that? So this is a sweater that is knit from the bottom up. Once you get to this point, you will then start on the sleeves. You will knit the sleeves to the bottom up, and then you will connect, and then you will do all this color work at the top as you decrease. And this is being knit on, excuse me, 4.5 millimeter needles, which is a US 7. And then I have these lovely little hot cocoa needle stoppers at the end. I just love them. I'm sure I got these from some Etsy shop. I will put a link to it down in the description box, because I have bought stitch stoppers from several different vendors. over the past year, and I can't remember all the vendors off the top of my head. I am so sorry. But so I'm slowly making nice progress on this. I think as soon as I get the sleeves finished and attached, then I'm going to try and get my mother's Christmas sweater started. My mother's sweater is going to be a lot lighter though. She is not one to wear heavy wool. So next up is the Outline Tee by Jessie May. This is a purchased pattern. It is currently living in my Lila Styles bag that I won from an early episode of Cinematic Skeins with Tammy. And I believe Lila is unfortunately going out of business. So if you go to her website, I believe she is basically putting up everything that she has left that's being made, and she might be making more just to get rid of her fabric stash. But it's a nice size bag. I would say this is probably a more of a medium weight project bag. There is a hook on the end, so if you wanted to hook it onto something or hook your keys to it or something, a nice little tassel for the, I don't know what this is called, a zipper pull. Duh, Dorothy. And so here is where I am on the Outline Tee. Again, this is a bottom-up sweater. Where that white stitch marker is where I was last time I shared this with you guys. So it looks like I've made about approximately 3 inches of progress. And these are made, or I am using, I should say, 3.5 millimeter needles. These are my Signature needles. Sadly, Signature has gone out of business. A pair of crabby needle toppers, so that my stitches don't fall off. I am having trouble thinking today. The yarn I am using is Go Handmade Tencel Bamboo Fine Yarn from Hobbii. It is the black colorway. It is very nice to knit with. I know on Ravelry, several people have mentioned that it was splitty when they used it. I am not having that issue. I did have that, let me explain. I did have that issue when I was casting on and doing that first row, but after that, I have not personally had any splitting issues. I don't know if it's the needles. I don't know if they were using duller needles or less pointy needles or whatever, but my Signatures are the stiletto tips. So they're the pointiest of tips in that line. And I am almost up to the part where I will be splitting for the sleeves. So, and I'm looking forward to having this done. It feels very divine. It's going to be a very, very drapey top, as you can see. I'm very pleased with the progress that I'm making on here. My progress on knitting has been very slow lately because I have been doing a lot of spinning. The Tour de Fleece was in July, and I had just started spinning before the Tour de Fleece started, and I am really, really enjoying it. It is a very, for me, it's a very meditative, relaxing hobby. Knitting and crocheting are very meditative and relaxing for me as well. And I think a lot of that has to do with my ADHD. I have, for those of you that are new to the podcast, I have just recently been diagnosed with ADHD. I believe I have had it all my life to a certain degree, but it has definitely gotten much worse once I started going through menopause. And I think that has to do with the hormonal changes that happen in your body. I am still learning a lot about it. I'm attempting to read some books to help me cope and give me some coping mechanisms to get things done with my crazy neurodivergent brain, but it's in the works. It's a work in progress. Let's just put it that way. You would think by the age of 54 there wouldn't be a work in progress anymore, but no, there is. And my last whip that I have been working on is in my Black Pearl Magic bag. I absolutely love this bag. And this is my Big Love sweater. Again, it is a paid for pattern on Ravelry. And it is by Annextrick. I am using stash yarn for this. I had 20 skeins of this Queensland Collection Uruguay Chunky in my stash in black, and I have another 20 skeins in a navy blue. But I don't think I'm going to use... I am enjoying this sweater. If it turns out that it really is nice and cozy, I do want to make another one. But I don't want to use this yarn again. I have a much looser yarn. This is a very, very worsted, very tightly spun yarn. And it's making a very dense sweater. And I would like to see how it would come out if I made it with a more worsted spun, a more woolen spun yarn that's much lighter. So last time I shared this, I had a portion of the shawl collar done and the back portion up until the sleeves met. So I had all of this done, this back portion, and the collar up until that section. I have since then done the right and left front and joined to knit in the round. So the stitch markers that I have here are allowing me to know when I am getting to the shawl collar. So this is a knit purl shawl collar, and then the rest is in a pattern. And then underneath the arms, I also have stitch markers because there is a delineation of a straight stockinette column for underneath the arms, because it's and I think that was done because you don't necessarily, the pattern may not necessarily match up when you get to the armhole section, because you could either do the same amount of rows or you could do to a certain length. I tend to do to a certain length because I feel like my row gauge isn't always the same as the designer's. And so I have managed to knit the front and back, and I have connected for the armholes. So I'm very pleased with the progress on this. But this is going to be a very heavyweight sweater. But I think I'm going to love it. And this may probably even allow me to keep my house just a little bit even cooler in the wintertime, so I'm not having incredible heating bills. But I love it. I don't know. Yeah, you can see a little bit of this stitch. I really like the stitch very much. It's a very neat stitch. Very easily memorizable because it's a four row repeat. But when you're coming back, like when you do row 1 and you're coming back, you're basically following the stitches as they are. And then you do row 3 and row 4, you're doing exactly what the stitches as you're mirroring the stitch that's already there, so you don't have to screw anything up. Not screw anything up, but you don't have to do anything differently. I am not making sense today. My medication must be rattling my brain with this sinus that I'm dealing with. And then, of course, I have my little cookie monsters. These look like baby cookie monsters. Needle stoppers, which I just love. Because who doesn't love Cookie Monster? C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. Yes, I was a Sesame Street kid growing up. And the last project I want to share is in a project bag I sewed myself many, many moons ago. It is the Flaming June cardigan, but I have made no progress on it. For those of you that have been around or saw my last episode, you know that I ran out of yarn. I don't know how I did this. Like I said, this project was started many, many moons ago. This project was started in March of 2012. Yes, I don't know why this project is still on the needles. But this was my very, very first attempt at a cardigan for myself. It would, if I had finished it, it really would have been my first garment knitting. But I think winter came along, and so it got put aside and probably got hidden in the back of a closet. And it was just recently found and pulled back out, and I continued to knit on it. I have the whole body is completed. So the whole body of this sweater is completed. The sleeves are almost completed. And this is where I ran out of yarn. This was it. This is all I had left. How I managed to do this, I have no idea, because there is no way I would have started a sweater for myself. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to hit that. There is no way I would have started a whole sweater for myself not having enough yarn. I was not that confident in my knitting 12 years ago. Wow. This, I think I can officially say this is my longest standing whip. But through the power of Ravelry, thankfully, I managed to find a kind soul who had a few skeins of the same yarn. Not in the same lot number, die lot, but she had 2 skeins of the navy, and she willingly sent them to me for no charge. And so I will now be able to finish my Flaming June cardigan. I will be looking at her Ravelry site to see if she has a pattern wish list, and I will be at least purchasing a pattern or 2 to cover the postage of the yarn as a huge, huge thank you, because if I had to take that sweater apart, I was just going to give it away. I would have just done away with it. So I now have the yarn. I can finish that sweater. I am super, super excited, and I can't wait. Now I just need to keep my fingers crossed that it'll fit me, because I don't know if I'm the same weight I was 12 years ago. So next up, I have just a few skeins of spinning to share with you. So first up is my very first skein of Tarhi. This was a fiber from Spirit Trail, and the colorway is called Spice Road. Very, very pretty. This was also my first attempt at a 3-ply yarn. So it's definitely it's a more round yarn. Came out very nice. I have, I didn't write it down. Shoot. So I have approximately 126 yards. So my nitty knotty is 2 yards, and I just counted because I forgot to write it down on my little tie-back tag. I have 63 loops, so 63 times 2 is 126, so approximately 126 yards. Maybe just a smidge less since it was wet blocked. It may have shrunk just or fluffed up a little and therefore shrunk a little, so I'd say safely 124 yards maybe. So I don't know what I'm going to do, probably a hat, but I really like it. It came out very nice. There's a little bit of give to it, a little bit of stretch. Definitely think 3-ply is the way to go. I feel like it's made a much more consistent ply to it. So I'm very, very pleased with this one. So once all my skeins have been wet blocked, I put a little tie-back, like wrist bracelet on it, with the name of the fiber or the company that I purchased it from, the fiber itself, the colorway name, the number of plies. This was a 3-ply. I would also put the wraps per inch. I would say this is probably more of a sport weight, maybe leaning a little towards DK and the yardage, but obviously I forgot to do it on this one. Next up is this beautiful fiber optic braid, or fiber optic fiber. Unfortunately, fiber optic is no longer dyeing fiber, and what did I say this one was? Spirit Trail unfortunately went out of business. So this is fiber optics. This is an 85 BFL 15% silk. It's approximately an 8 whips per inch, so more of a worsted weight. It's the garnet colorway. Actually maybe more of an Aran weight. And I managed to get 86 yards out of this. This is a beautiful color. Beautiful shine to it, or sheen I should say more, from the silk. Definitely has a little bit of sproing in it. I think this might be either a hat or a cowl. Probably for moi, I don't know. Or actually maybe even fingerless mitts. That would be nice too. So both of these were what is considered worsted spun. So it is, as you're spinning it, you're smoothing down the fibers and basically trying to squeeze all the air out of it. It's a nicer, not a nicer fiber. What am I trying to say? Worsted weight yarn is not worsted weight, but worsted spun. I know it gets very tricky between weight and spun. A worsted spun yarn is a smoother yarn. Therefore, it allows for better stitch definition, especially if you're doing cables or lace work. And then next up is my first woolen spun yarn. And woolen spun means that there is a lot of air trapped inside the yarn. It also makes for a much, much lighter feeling yarn. And so this particular skein was a mix of fibers from 2 different dyers. And I didn't put all the dyers' names on here. I know one set of Rolags came from, so I used Rolags excuse me, I used Rolags to spin this yarn up. And Rolags are little fluffs of fiber that are basically rolled up and allows for air to be trapped when you're spinning them. And this one set of Rolags came from Hidden Pastures, and it was in their, the colorway was called Budding Lilac. It was 70% farm dyed merino, 25% rambouillet, and 5% silk. And I will put a picture up here of the two different bobbins spun up so that you could see them separately. And then the second yarn was spun from Rolags that I purchased from JK Fiber Arts. Again, I will put a link to all these shops down below in the description box. And the yarn from JK Fiber Arts was a mix of wool and some silk. And I used the long draw method to spin up the singles, so that allows for air to be trapped in. That also apparently allows for your fiber to go much farther yardage wise. So each set of Rolags was 2 ounces each. So for a total of 400 ounces. I can't do math today. 2 plus 2 is 400. So for a total of 4 ounces, I managed to get this lovely skein. Like I said, very light and airy compared to a worsted spun yarn. And this is more of a sport DK weight, and there's 278 yards in this skein. I really do love how the two different colorways played together. I had a little bit extra left over of the JK Fiber Arts yarn. So with what was left, I just made an applying bracelet, and I did a little 2-ply of this little tiny mini skein. I have no idea what I'm going to do with such a little mini skein, but I couldn't waste the yarn. So you could see it's a very bright, very bright and almost fluorescently looking green. But when I mixed it with the very dark mossy green from the Hidden Pastures fiber, it comes out with a very lovely, very multicolored. I mean, obviously it would be multicolored, but multifaceted green. But green is not particularly my color, but I really like how this turned out. So with this much yardage, I have no idea what I'm going to do. So I think it's leaning more of a sport weight. 278 yards, maybe a nice little shawlette or something. But very nice. And then I had, this is my last spinning project to share. I had a bag of remnants, I guess you would call it, from Into the Whirl. And I had shared this skein, the same package. I shared this skein on my last podcast. This was half the package, and it was more of the, I guess, the woolier feeling yarns. Unfortunately, none of the mill ends were labeled, so I have no idea what the fibers were. I just totally went by feel. But these felt more like the ones that may have been more of a scratchier yarn. And then this one felt like yarns that were a bit more softer next to the skin. Why I did it this way, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking when I skeined them up separately. It probably would have been more beneficial for me to make one bobbin out of the scratchy and one bobbin out of the softer ones, and then ply them together, and hopefully they would balance out. But I don't think I had the same amount of fiber for each one. But they probably will both be knit up together in some sort of a hat or something. But I do enjoy knitting. I do enjoy spinning up these multicolored fibers like this and seeing what comes out of them. Okay, not my best winding job. So as far as making goes, that is all I have to share with you guys. If that is all you are here for, thank you so much for coming. Don't forget to give a like and a subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next episode. If you are here to see the acquisitions and hear about my life updates and what I've been doing for the last several weeks, stick around. So now we're going to move on to acquisitions. Most of my acquisitions are fiber. I do have 2 yarn acquisitions and 1 just fun acquisition. Oh, and I got 1 Advent already. Not Advent, but Advent sock set already that I shared, that I haven't peeked yet. I have not peeked. So maybe I'll share that first. So I did order the Woolens and Nosh Advent sock set for this year. It comes in this nice little bag. And what's nice is they have they usually already wind up the skein for use. They're already in center pull balls. Woolens and Nosh does a color, and then they do a solid color between each of the stripes that also matches the mini, so that you can do your toes, heels, and cuffs in that color. And so that is always the center of the center pull ball. So you really still have no idea what colors are coming up in your skein unless you peek. I have not peeked. I will be starting these December 1, and I'm just pushing it in there so that I don't pull more out than I really should. I don't want it to get caught on anything. And Woolens and Nosh base is their Tarhi fingering. It's 90% Tarhi, 10% nylon. Sorry, brain fart there. And it is a 3-ply yarn. The striped skeins are 411 yards, and then the mini is 123 yards. So there should definitely be enough in here, for me at least, to do heels, toes, and cuffs. And so I'm looking forward to getting that started. I love these little baggies so that I can carry them, and it's a nice canvas bag. So these are definitely reusable. I still have mine from last year. Next up, I have a purchase from Fiber Hustle. So that is Fiber Hustle. That is their little mascot, and they just named their mascot, and for the life of me, I can't remember what they named him. Oh well. But when I saw some of the Instagram posts from the Flock Fiber Fest that they were doing, I just had to get one of these, and I was praying they wouldn't sell out. But here we go. Ready? Is this not cool? Just what I need for the summer. Creative as... So I was very pleased that I was able to get one of these and they didn't sell out. And then I picked up 2 more skeins of Aaron's yarn. I have, I think, a few others in my stash, but I have knit with it before, so I'm very happy. He does a lot of very nice solid or semi-solid colorways like tonals, and then a lot of his mixed yarns match album covers that he has. So that's a lot of fun, and it sort of brings back memories. And his display at Flock also, he brought his albums with him, so he had the album cover with the yarn in front of it, which, and in their last podcast, he happened to say how a lot of people seeing the two together brought back memories from when those albums were popular and bought yarn because of that. So this one is so fresh, so clean. It's a BFL nylon 75/25. And then this is Screaming Queens. And this is also another BFL nylon, 7525. And I can't remember if either of these are an album cover or not at this point, but I bought them because I just love the colors. Okay, so that is it. That is all I have in regards to yarn purchases. Now we get into the fiber aspect of the acquisitions. So first up is some fiber that I bought from a company off of Etsy. And at the time, I didn't realize it was coming from England. It was from Bellevue Fibers. I ordered a set of Rolags and a set of bats. And I had been eyeing these bats for quite a while because it was just stunning. But here are the Rolags. The Rolags are called Royal Malachite, and they're 100 grams, and it's a mix of merino, baby llama, tussa silk, and tritobal. I have no idea what that is. But look at the colors. I mean, you got to see these. I mean, it's just beautiful. Look at this Rolag. Pretty golds and greens and deep teals. I can't wait to spin this up. So there's 100 grams of this. Yep, it's 150 grams. Broken down into 5 different bats. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. How am I going to do this without messing it up? Look at these. Are these not beautiful? It goes from this pretty purple and increases in depth of darkness to a really, really dark, deep navy black. Oh, I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. I have no idea how I'm going to spin this up. But if I can spin this up thin enough, it's definitely going to be chain ply, so that it's a triple strand, and hopefully enough to make some sort of a scarflet or something. But oh, I just had to. And how cute is this? So the contents are Raven Wings is what the colorway is called. It's a gradient bat set. It's 150 grams of superfine merino and tussa silk. And the back of their card is a little spinning record. That is adorable. I got a complimentary Rolag. Is that not a pretty color? And then the next I'm opening up with you guys. This was an Etsy purchase from the Nanette Wake Studio on Etsy. I think I said Etsy twice. Now, I have purchased yarn from Nanette in the past. She must have just recently started dyeing fiber as well, because she did not have fiber when I bought from her. But she was having an awesome sale on her fiber, and I couldn't resist. So first up, we have the colorway is called Xanadu. It's 100% Tarhi, and it's approximately 4 ounces. And oh, it's squishy goodness. So that's one. And I want to say, like, at her sale price, I think these braids were like $12. I mean, I couldn't pass that up. Not as a beginning spinner. Next up, we have... Oh my goodness. This is 100% Falkland Merino, a 4-ounce braid, and it's called Daydream Believer. Nice. Squishy, squishy, squishy. Whoops. Oh my. Sorry about that. Ooh. This is another 100% Falkland Merino braid, 4 ounces. And this one is called Roses Are Red. Ooh. Ooh. I may have to spin this one up next. Roses Are Red. Okay, this one, the colorway is called Worth Melting For. It is 80% merino and 20% glitter blend. Oh, I wish you could see the sparkles in this one. Oh my gosh. And it feels so soft. Oh my God, of course it does. It's merino. Oh, it's got like different shades of blue and some very, very pale lavender, and it doesn't really look white, but maybe and some glitter. Oh my God, it's got glitter in it. Do you see the glitter? Can you see the shine? Oh my. This is gorgeous. And then the last one I bought from her ooh, another Falkland Merino, 4 ounces. And this is called, and I must have bought it strictly for the name, Miss Piggy Poo. Which one should I spin up first? Should I spin up Xanadu, Daydream Believer, Worth Melting For, all its pretty glitter, Roses Are Red, or Miss Piggy Poo? Put it in the comments. Let me know which one I should spin up first. And then lastly, Tammy from Cinematic Skeins was having a sale. Was having a D-stash sale. Excuse me. So of course I know she spins, so I had to go see if she had any fiber that she was selling. And she was. And so I bought just a few things. Just a few things. So first up is, this is a custom comb top in Cordale. The colorway is called I Need More Space. And it was, I believe this was it was a 4-ounce bag. And I've actually already started spinning this one up because I really wanted to see how a comb top like this spun up, since I've never spun up anything that would like this. I've mostly spun up braids that were dyed in this manner. I've never done anything like this. So I'm spinning it up, worsted spun. Yes, worsted spun. I'm spinning it up on my e-spinner. I'd say the single is probably a fingering weight single. And if I decide to do the whole 4 ounces in that, I may keep it as a single. But I'm thinking, just to see how differently it would spin up, I'm thinking of spinning the other 2 ounces from the fold to see if the colors mix up a little bit differently. So maybe, hopefully I'll have this finished by the next podcast, and I could or at least maybe That's what I'll do. Maybe I'll spin up the two different bobbins and show you guys the difference if it spins very differently between the two bobbins before I apply it. So I bought 1/4 ounce of this. She had this beautiful braid of Malabrigo in the chameleon colorway, which is 100% merino. Such pretty colors. Couldn't resist. Then she had this is 100% merino wool, and the colorway is called Harmony. I'm trying to see. There we go. It's kind of like purples and oranges and black, so almost like another Halloween-y type colorway. And then the last one I bought from her comes from Kamaj Fiber Arts, and it's called Stained Glass. It doesn't tell me the blend, but it's 18 micron merino and mulberry silk. It's a custom blend. I guess they custom blended it. It's called Stained Glass, and this has 16 ounces. And wow, is this beautiful. Tammy, if you're watching, I can't believe you sold this. Is that not beautiful? Oh my gosh. Stunning. I can't wait to spin this up. But this, I definitely want to be able to spin a little bit finer and a little bit more consistent, because with 16 ounces, I should, if I can spin it thin enough, be able to make a decent, like a medium-sized shawl. Almost, maybe like almost 2 skeins of regular fingering weight. We'll see. But this is just, Tammy, I can't believe you sold this. This is just absolutely stunning. And that is the end of my acquisitions. So we'll move on to what's been going on in my life. I will share some of the books that I've been reading and a little bit of what I've been watching. I don't tend to watch a whole lot. I don't know if I've ever shared this, but I have not had a TV in my house. I haven't had a TV for over a year. I just feel like with the way marketing is going, it's just getting out of hand, and the cost of cable TV is outrageous, and you don't even get all the channels anymore. Like years ago, it used to be that you would get cable and you would have a great selection without needing to get HBO, Cinemax, or Showtime, and those used to be the 3 big ones. But now it seems like everybody has turned into a subscription. So it's not just Cinemax, Showtime, and HBO. Now it's Peacock and Disney Plus and Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime, and everything is now a subscription. And for someone who is on a single income and is a teacher, I just can't afford all those subscriptions. So it wasn't worth it to me to keep cable when cable really isn't cable anymore. It's when you pay for cable, you're getting like your regular CBS, NBC, your regular channels, and it just wasn't worth it to me. I thought it's just getting absolutely ridiculous. I have Netflix, I have Amazon Prime, and I am good with that for right now. So I don't watch a whole lot of TV. I watch podcasts, I watch things on YouTube. I listen to a lot of audiobooks and I listen to a lot of podcasts, but if there's a good movie and it's on Netflix or Amazon, I will watch it, or if it's a purchase, I will purchase it, but on a month-to-month basis, I just can't afford all those subscriptions. It's just, to me, it's getting a little bit ridiculous. So, I will share what has been happening the last couple of weeks in my life. I had to go back up to New York. We decided that we were going to do a family weekend of making tomato jars. It's an Italian tradition in my family. We buy bushels of tomatoes because we cannot grow enough. I'm sure in our younger years, in my parents' younger years, they probably could have if they planted nothing but tomatoes. But that's really not conducive for a garden. So my parents bought a couple of bushels of tomatoes from a farm, and we cut up the tomatoes. We cut off around the stem area. We cut off any areas that don't look so appealing, and then they get quartered, and then they get put into a pot. They get boiled up. I have some pictures I will put in here. I may even have a little video clip, but they get boiled up. Once they get boiled, they're nice and hot. They go through a strainer that my parents have, and it strains and releases all the juices and all the pulp from inside the tomatoes on one side, and then out the back side, it spits out the seeds and the skin. And then the seeds and the skin go through the pulverized, well, I call it a pulverized, I don't know what else to call it, but it goes through the machine like 3 or 4 times to really try and pull as much of the juices out as possible until the skins and the seeds look like they have been dried up in the sun. So we usually do about 3 or 4 passes of the skin and seeds until they can't give us any more juice. And then those get put into the same bucket that we have put all of the pieces that we cut out that weren't so great. And those will go in my father's compost bins. Once all the juices are done, the juices go back on the stove until they get nice and hot again. Not that they had much time to cool down, but they get reheated to a nice boil. Once they boil, my mom starts to fill up the tomato jars, the mason jars, and then she puts the lids on them and screws them shut. And as they cool, they just naturally seal. And we made 42 jars of tomato sauce for the year. Yay. I managed to bring 2 nice sized jars home, 2 like 16-quart jars. So that will make a nice pot of sauce that would feed a good family of 10. So, when I make those jars, I will be, once the tomato sauce is done, I'll be sectioning them out and freezing them so that I can reuse them, since it's just me. And then my mom had the foresight to have some little jars, so that they're like maybe 2 or 3 servings once you make them into tomato sauce. So I managed to take 2 of those home, since that would be perfect for me to make some pasta or some sort of a meat sauce and use it for a couple of different dinners. And let's see. So school started. It was a hectic school year to start. So I've just recently been diagnosed with ADHD. I do believe I have had it all my life, but I think there has been a definite shift in it and I feel that it's probably connected to menopause and changing hormones and how it affects females differently than males. And a lot of diseases have not been studied in females, so they really don't know how things will react in females and drugs as well, because of our monthly cycles, researchers can't get an accurate read sometimes. So we could respond differently to drugs and to diagnoses because it hasn't officially really been studied in regards to the females, in regards to females. So the whole summer we were working on getting my medication correct, because I'm sure I have shared that I have been diagnosed with depression and anxiety for many years, but I am now learning that those two diagnoses probably more so stem from the ADHD than being a separate issue of itself. Like, people can have depression and people can have anxiety without having ADHD, but when you have ADHD, you tend to have those two as well. And I don't know all the science behind it. I am still reading a lot, trying to work through medications. We still don't have the proper dosage for what I am on, and we are thinking that at our next meeting we may try and work in a second medication and see how that affects everything. So I am still learning about it. I am still trying to deal with it. In that aspect, I purchased this book. It is ADHD Cleaning Habits, or Cleaning Hacks, by Craig Gordon. And it says it is proven strategies and actionable checklists for a calmer home and mind. So definitely, since I have been going through menopause, my housekeeping has gone to pot. And the more I read about this and the more I learn about ADHD, I am now understanding why I can't seem to keep up on my house. And so I'm really hoping that the tips and tricks in that book are going to get me back on track, because a calming environment is what an ADHD person needs, but it doesn't always happen. I can't explain it properly. It's like I need a tidy house for my anxiety and my depression to sort of backtrack. But the ADHD and the neurodivergency of the brain doesn't always allow me to think in that manner, to go in and say, okay, I need to clean the kitchen. I need to chunk it all down into little steps. And it's a very slow process for me, because I am basically retraining my brain on how to think about cleaning and chunking it down and trying to find what works for me instead of what works for the way I was raised to clean, if that makes any sense. But let's move on to more fun books that I have read recently. I have read The Seventh Victim by Mary Burton. Great book. I read Educated by Tara Westover. And actually, Educated was an audiobook that I listened to with my friend Ellen as we were driving up to New York and home from New York. Fabulous, fabulous book. It's set in the Appalachian Mountains and the way of the Appalachian life, and how schooling and stuff was not the greatest of concerns, but that was not the main focus of the book. The main focus of the book was the mental issues of the parents and the father and the family and that lifestyle, and how the author, this is about her life, how she comes to realize that and educates herself and deals with that and trying to come to terms with this is her family and this is their way of life and this is how it is, versus I now know the diagnoses and what's going on with my family, and yet not trying to distance. It's juggling the two. Very interesting. I read The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. Great book on the mythical fairy creatures. The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher, another mystery, another mythical type of place. Wayward by Amelia Hart, fabulous witch book. And then I watched The Rain on Netflix, which is an interesting not miniseries, but an interesting series and an interesting take on Mary, Queen of Scots, and her life with, now I can't think of the guy's name from France. But anyway, it's a pretty interesting series. And I watched one other series. What the heck was it? I forgot to write it down. I'm sorry, I can't think of it. But it's very My Lady Jane. I think that's it. It's very much, it's very similar to like the Bridgerton series. It's set in that time period, but there's a mythical aspect to it. And so there's a divide between humans and the humans that have a mythical aspect to them, that they turn into an animal. It's very good. And of course, now I'm currently watching the Discovery of Witches series, since it's now available on Netflix and I don't have to pay for it. And I just saw that the Mayfield Witches is now on Netflix. So that's probably going to be the next show that I catch up on. And that is all I have for you guys this time. Sorry, had a bit of a coughing fit there. So that is all I have for you guys right now. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so that you can be notified whenever I put out a new episode. It really does help my channel grow, and I do so appreciate it. Be sure to put in the comments which braid from the Net Wakes that you think I should spin up next. Again, it is Miss Piggy Poo, Roses Are Red, Daydream Believer, Xanadu, and I don't have enough fingers, or Worth Melting For. And I will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks so much for watching. I truly, truly appreciate you guys spending time with me. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. Ciao, ciao. Love y'all.